Hello, everyone. Welcome to February 22 Chronological Bible Reading. Um, you know, think about going through the book of Leviticus. Again, just giving you a little bit of, kind of that larger view, because sometimes we'll read through this and we'll see some of these things that God is trying to give them instructions on. It's like, wow, it's pretty graphic at times, pretty detailed in regard to a lot of different things. The menstrual period, spilling of semen. I mean, all kinds of different stuffs when it comes. Because it's talking about discharges and bodily fluids and all kinds of stuff. Makes everybody just a little bit nervous. But again, here's the reminder of like, God is an educator. Okay, God is an educator. All wisdom does not reside within humanity, it resides within God. And God is the one that is trying to educate his people in regard to, to various things. And he educates us in regard to our bodies, in regard to health and cleanliness, in regard to our sexuality, in regard to our finances, in regard to worship, to leadership, to politics, to treating other, how we treat other people, in regard to just all kinds of things. And so God is instructing his people. And here's the thing: God is the creator of life. God is the creator of these ideas of society, of community, of family. I mean, all of those things. Now we have a tendency in our world that has kind of taken God off from the center of the throne, right? In him being the center and the one that we go to for wisdom and understanding. What we've done in our societies, we've placed him off to the side, and we've kind of relegated God to religion, right? Religion. And what we've basically, in doing that, we've said, okay, God, you get this corner over here, but we're going to gain all of our wisdom about humanity, about life, about all of those things I just mentioned. We're going to get that from humanity, our own thoughts, our own wisdom, our own experiences, our own. Yeah, and what happens is what we do is we neglect to go to the one who is the source of all knowledge. And so God gives us knowledge. He gives us wisdom. He speaks into things. And so we need to try to bring back, all of us, bring God back over onto the throne, and have him be the one that is seated on the throne of our lives. And so, having Jesus as Lord of our lives, when the scriptures tell us in Romans that, if we confess Jesus as Lord, that we'll be saved. Romans 10, it says that. It's not just a spiritual transaction that gets us into heaven. This is about him coming back over onto the throne and beginning to gain our wisdom and understanding about life, about all of these things through God. Now, there's a lot of things, obviously, that we have learned over the course of time, that God has given humanity wisdom to be able to learn some things in our experiences, in scientific study and things like that. But God is the primary source. And what we need to make sure is that we don't remove God as the primary source and make him a secondary source in any area of our life. And so there's such wisdom in us asking, the question: how does God view life, cleanliness, purity, right down to civil responsibilities, authority. I mean, all of those things. And right now, our world is a mess. You would agree with me, right? I'm certain that you would agree with me that our world is an absolute mess. And the reason for that is we've made God a secondary source. And before we go and we point it at the world, we say, oh yeah, it's a mess. No, in our own lives, it's become a mess because we've made God the secondary source of authority, and we're going to our own selves or other things. And listen, look no further, even in the church, where people are doing that. And so, if we want to kind of discard, we've got a lot of places where we're saying, you know what, yeah, I want to be, I want to be a Christian, and I want to be able to do things though the way I want to do them. And so God's authority in my life, it only goes so far. And so, I'll kind of worship when I want, how I want. I'll give what I want, when I want. I'll deal with sin how I want, when I want. I'll make excuses for the ones that, I want to make excuses for, and I'll ask God forgiveness for the ones that, I don't, really, that don't matter to me as much. And so just please, let's start asking ourselves the question, what does it look like to put God on the throne again, at the center of knowledge, of guidance, of wisdom, and the authority? And we ought to, we ought to be changing things in our life, even if they're uncomfortable. We ought to be experiencing a bit of uncomfort or discomfort, as followers of Jesus, as disciples who have surrendered themselves to the Lordship of Christ. You and I ought to experience a bit of discomfort as God brings through the Holy Spirit, transforming voice into our hearts and our lives, saying, hey, this is something that needs to change. So let's take a look again, as we look at Leviticus 17, as God's giving them, again, more parameters for the Jewish people, the Israelites, as they're on their journey, getting ready, be on their journey from Sinai to the Promised Land, settling in a land that is filled with all kinds of pagan worship that would lead them astray. God's giving them instruction. Okay? Prohibitions against eating blood. Leviticus 17. Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to Aaron and his sons and all the people of Israel. This is what the Lord has commanded. If any native Israelite sacrifices a bull or a lamb or a goat anywhere inside or outside the camp, instead of bringing it to the entrance of the tabernacle to present it as an offering to the Lord, that person will be as guilty as a murderer. Such a person has shed blood and will be cut off from the community. The purpose of this rule is to stop the Israelites from sacrificing animals in open fields. It will ensure that they bring their sacrifices to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle so he can present them to the Lord as a peace offering. Then the priest will be able to splatter the blood against the Lord's altar at the entrance of the tabernacle, and he will burn the fat as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. The people must no longer be unfaithful to the Lord by offering sacrifices to the goat idols. Okay, you see the difference here. This is a permanent law for them to be observed from generation to generation. Give them this command as well. If any native Israelite or foreigner living among you offers a burnt offering or a sacrifice, but does not bring it to the entrance of the tabernacle to offer it to the Lord, that person will be cut off from the community. And if any native Israelite or foreigner living among you eats or drinks blood in any form, I will turn against that person and cut him off from the community of your people. For the life of the body is in its blood. Underline that. I have given you the blood on the altar to purify you, making you right with the Lord. It is the blood given in exchange for a life that makes purification possible. That is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood, neither you nor the foreigners living among you. And if any native Israelite or foreigner living among you goes hunting and kills an animal or bird that is approved for eating, he must drain its blood and cover it with earth. The life of every creature is in its blood. That is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood, for the life of any creature is in its blood. So whoever consumes blood will be cut off from the community. And if any native-born Israelites or foreigners eat the meat of an animal that died naturally or was torn up by wild animals, they must wash their clothes and bathe themselves in water. They will remain ceremonially unclean until evening, but then they will be clean. But if they do not wash their clothes and bathe themselves, they will be punished for their sin. Okay, Leviticus 18. Then the Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. I am the Lord your God. So do not act like the people in Egypt. Underline that. This is all informing you. Why is God is being very specific. Do not be like the people in Egypt, where you used to live, or like the people of Canaan, where I am taking you. You must not imitate their way of life. Underline that one. You must obey all my regulations and be careful to obey my decrees, for I am the Lord your God. If you obey my decrees and my regulations, you will find life through them. That's another one good one to underline. You will find life through them. I am the Lord. So you must never have sexual relations with a close relative, for I am the Lord. Do not violate your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She's your mother. You must not have sexual relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with any of your father's wives, for this would violate your father. Do not have sexual relations with your sister or half-sister, whether she is your father's daughter or your mother's daughter, whether she was born into your household or someone else's. Do not have sexual relations with your granddaughter, whether she is your son's daughter or your daughter's daughter, for this would violate yourself. Do not have sexual relations with your stepsister, the daughter of any of your father's wives, for she is your sister. Do not have sexual relations with your father's sister, for she is your father's close relative. Do not have sexual relations with your mother's sister, for she is your mother's close relative. Do not violate your uncle, your father's brother, by having sexual relations with his wife, for she is your aunt. Do not have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law. She is your son's wife, so you must not have sexual relations with her. Do not have sexual relations with your brother's wife, for this would violate your brother. Do not have sexual relations with both a woman and her daughter. And do not take her granddaughter, whether her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter, and have sexual relations with her. They are close relatives, and this would be a wicked act. While your wife is living, do not marry her sister and have sexual relations with her, for they would be rivals. Do not have sexual relations with a woman during her period of menstrual impurity. Do not defile yourselves by having sexual intercourse with your neighbor's wife. Do not permit any of your children to be offered as a sacrifice to Molech, for you must not bring shame on the name of your God. I am the Lord. Do not practice homosexuality, having sex with another man, as with a woman. It is a detestable sin. A man must not defile himself by having sex with an animal, and a woman must not offer herself to a male animal to have intercourse with it. This is a perverse act. Do not defile yourselves in any of these ways, for the people I am driving out before you have defiled themselves in all these ways. That's another one, a very important one to underline. Verse 24. The people I'm driving out before you have defiled themselves in all these ways. Because the entire land has become defiled, I am punishing the people who live there. I will cause the land to vomit them out. Okay, I underlined all of that. You must obey all my decrees and regulations. You must not commit any of these detestable sins. This applies both to native-born Israelites and to the foreigners living among you. All these detestable activities are practiced by the people of the land where I'm taking you, and this is how the land has become defiled. So do not defile the land and give it a reason to vomit you out, as it will vomit out the people who live there now. Whoever commits any of these detestable sins will be cut off from the community of Israel. So obey my instructions and do not defile yourselves by committing any of these detestable practices that were committed by the people who lived in the land before you. I am the Lord your God. Chapter 19. The Lord also said to Moses, give the following instructions to the entire community of Israel. You must be holy because I, the Lord your God, am holy. That's a good one to underline. Each of you must show great respect for your mother and father, and you must also observe my Sabbath days of rest. I am the Lord your God. Do not put your trust in idols or make metal images of gods for yourselves. I am the Lord your God. When you sacrifice a peace offering to the Lord, offer it properly so you will be accepted by God. I underline that. Offer it properly. The sacrifice must be eaten on the same day you offer it or on the next day. Whatever is left over until the third day must be completely burned up. And if any of the sacrifice is eaten on the third day, it will be contaminated and I will not accept it. Anyone who eats it on the third day will be punished for defiling what is holy to the Lord and will be cut off from the community. When you harvest the crops of your land, do not harvest the grain along the edges of your fields, and do not pick up what the harvesters drop. It is the same with your grape crop. Do not strip every last bunch of grapes from the vines, and do not pick up the grapes that fall to the ground. Leave them for the poor and the foreigners living among you. I am the Lord your God. Do not steal. Do not deceive or cheat one another. Do not bring shame on the name of your God by using it to swear falsely. I am the Lord. Do not defraud or rob your neighbor. Do not make your hired workers wait until the next day to receive their pay. Do not insult the deaf or cause the blind to stumble. You must fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not twist justice in legal matters by favoring the poor or being partial to the rich and powerful. Always judge people fairly. Underline that. Always judge people fairly. Do not spread slanderous gossip among your people. Do not stand idly by when your neighbor's life is threatened. I am the Lord. Do not nurse hatred in your heart for any of your relatives. Confront people directly so you will not be held guilty for their sin. Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against a fellow Israelite, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You must obey all my decrees. Okay? Do not make two different kinds of animals. Do not plant your field with two different kinds of seeds. Do not wear clothing woven from two different kinds of thread. If a man has sex with a slave girl whose freedom has never been purchased, but who is committed to become another man's wife, he must pay full compensation to her master. But since she is not a free woman, neither the man nor the woman will be put to death. The man, however, must bring a ram as a guilt offering and present it to the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will then purify it before the Lord with the ram of guilt offering, and the man's sin will be forgiven. When you enter the land and plant fruit trees, leave the fruit unharvested for the first 3 years and consider it forbidden. Do not eat it. In the 4th year, the entire crop must be consecrated to the Lord as a celebration of praise. Finally, in the 5th year, you may eat the fruit. If you follow this pattern, your harvest will increase. I am the Lord your God. Underline that. If you follow this pattern, your harvest will increase. I am the Lord your God. Do not eat meat that has not been drained of its blood. Do not practice fortune telling or witchcraft. Do not trim the hair on your temples or trim your beards. Do not cut your bodies for the dead. Do not mark your skin with tattoos. I am the Lord. Do not defile your daughter by making her a prostitute, or the land will be filled with prostitution and wickedness. Keep my Sabbath days of rest and show reverence toward my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Do not defile yourselves by turning to mediums or to those who consult the spirits of the dead. I am the Lord your God. Stand up in the presence of the elderly and show respect for the aged. Fear your God. I am the Lord. Do not take advantage of foreigners who live among you in your land. Treat them like native-born Israelites and love them as you love yourself. Remember that you were once foreigners living in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Do not use dishonest standards when measuring length and weight or volume. Your scales and weights must be accurate. Your containers for measuring dry materials or liquids must be accurate. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt. You must be careful to keep all my decrees and regulations by putting them into practice. I am the Lord. So I want you to see here, this is such an incredible passage right here. When you read it in Luke, Leviticus 19, I'm telling you, it just God is driving something home. What is He trying to drive? First of all, He's saying, "Listen, I am the Lord your God." You notice that He repeats it over and over. He's like, first of all, He's saying, "I'm the Lord your God." A couple of things. First of all, I'm the one. I'm the standard by which you live your life. Okay, I'm the standard. You see, I'm the Lord your God. Also, I'm the Lord your God. Have respect for the things that I'm saying to you. Okay? Because what can happen is we can be like, oh, blow them off. God saying, no, listen, I'm the Lord. I am the Lord your God. I brought you out of Egypt. I gave you life. Have some respect for me. We've got a world that has no respect for God. Quite honestly, and again, a world and even sometimes in the church, no respect for God. And God's saying, you got to have me as the reference for your life. Stop trying to do life without me and what I'm telling you to do as the reference. And why is it? What does God say? I told you to underline something that was really important. And it's this, verse 25. If you follow this pattern, your harvest will increase. I am the Lord your God. And obviously, he was in that case, he was speaking of the planting of trees and things like that when they came into the land and they're trying to get their harvests around and all that. And God's saying, listen, follow the pattern. And this is what I'd say. All of the Bible is a pattern that God is trying to give us. And if we follow it, it's in the same way. If we follow his pattern, we will experience a harvest of blessing. Okay, we see that in Matthew when Jesus talks about, he gives the Beatitudes, blessed are the merciful, blessed are the peacemakers, all those things. This is a pattern that God is trying to give to us. He's trying to get us back onto the patterns that lead to life. And so he's giving these parameters, and he's giving us perspectives and the worldview of all of these things. And what he's trying to do is establish patterns in us and not have us repeat the same types of mistakes that the people in the land before us that God is driving out, right? He's trying to get us to see things with a different type of pattern. And so when God is he's referencing a lot of sexual practices, a lot of sexual sin, and even worship. There's a lot of pagan worship. There's a lot of evil, wicked. There's sorcery and those types of things that was happening in those days in Canaan as they're going out in Egypt and in Canaan as they were heading. So they're heading out of one place, pagan place, traveling through, stop at Mount Sinai. God gives them new reference points as they're now going towards Canaan, the land of Canaan, where there's more people that are just like the Egyptians that are practicing these practices, sacrificing their children, worshiping evils, using evil spirits and worshiping and sorcery and all of these things and cutting themselves and tattooing themselves in line with their worship of these deities and these gods. And so that helps you understand what God is saying here about the tattoos. He was like, this is a form of pagan worship that they were doing. And so that's why God is giving these parameters of don't do these things and judge people fairly. Don't deceive. Don't cheat other people. Don't steal. He's giving all of these things to help us to follow a new pattern of life. And in Romans, that's what it says. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And so we just have to keep stepping back and asking ourselves, am I living according to the pattern of this world? How can I begin to change the pattern of my life so that I can experience the greatest blessing and the harvest of life that God would have for me? Is incredible, isn't it? God is so good, and his word is so good. And it cuts right in, and it makes us just stand back and say, okay, how can I begin to live with a different pattern of life? I hope this has been helpful to you today. Hopefully we can begin to step back and we see a lot of patterns in this world that are questionable, that that the world says it's all right. It's all right. I can do this. I can do this because it's my preference. It's how I feel. It's, you know, who I desire to love, how I desire to express myself, all of these things. And God's like, whoa, wait a minute. I'm the Lord your God. I know what's healthy. I know what's right. And it doesn't matter even how you feel about it because the heart is deceptive above all things. It doesn't matter how you feel. What matters is what God has to say. And we begin to conform ourselves to the pattern that God has rather than our own patterns that we feel will bring us satisfaction and happiness. Because trust me, you might think that it brings happiness and satisfaction now, but you find that it leads to emptiness, it leads to brokenness, and it leads to living outside of the beauty of God's pattern. But thankfully, we can all repent. We can all turn away from the patterns. We turn away from those things and say, I'm sorry, God, for trying to do it my way. Lord, please forgive me. And please lead me in the way of everlasting. That's what the psalmist says. Lead me in the way that leads to life. And every person, that's the goodness of God. Every person has the invitation to do that and can do that if they're willing to humble themselves. Because here's what: humble themselves, okay, and say, I'm not God, God is. And humble themselves and say, I need to change. God's word doesn't need to change. I do. And I'm going to submit to it. And when we submit, God begins to come and heal our mind and heal our hearts and heal our lives. God bless you. I hope you have a really, really great day.